Well, welcome students to Let's Talk About It, where we take topics and conversations that you want to hear about and we talk about it. Let's go.
I need to do my vocal warm-ups first.
Okay, go ahead.
It's raining, it's pouring, the old man is snoring. He went to bed and bumped his head and couldn't get up in the morning.
Okay, that's really sad. Do we recognize what that line says?
This
did
man
he
didn't
die?
get up.
Did the old man die?
I think he did, but the question that I just want to know is, did this old man use his influence?
Wow. And on that note, welcome to another episode of Let's Talk About It, where we talk about just some fun things like influence, right? So, man, Pay, I'm so glad that you're here. I've had the privilege of knowing you since you were 15.
Yes.
Is that what it is?
The ripe old age.
Yes.
Of
and
freshman year.
Now you're not 15.
No.
You've grown up. And man, I think it's super cool that now we're talking about influence, that you're talking about influence. So this was one of the topics that you actually bring to me. I was like, hey, I want to talk about this. And I think it's really important for young people to hear from young leaders on how to grow their influence. But before we get into all that, what really interests you in the subject of influence in the first place?
Yeah, I think just growing up, my whole life, I remember being really young, my mom telling me, on the 5th grade cheer squad, she's like, Paytn, you have little eyes watching you. And at a young age, that didn't really have a lot of weight to it, but it just made me aware. And I think the older that I've gotten and the more I've seen, I've watched God not just have little eyes watching me when I was in 5th grade, but now getting to be a part of student ministry and getting to serve and lead so many girls specifically. I've watched the Lord grow that influence. And as he's made me more aware of the influence that he's given me, he's also given me a heart for these girls, these students, just generally, to know that God's also given them influence. And be able to teach them what it looks like to use their influence well, for them to understand the gravity of that he's gifted us with that, but also understand how to use it well. So
yeah, there is a gravity that I don't think many really do consider that comes with this term influence, because I think most people think that, hey, I'll get influence when I get older, or, not older like me, much older, because I'm young, right?
Mm-hmm. You are. Earlier I did call him what? An old man or something.
That's not right. You are so wrong with that.
But for the sake of y'all, I'll say he's young.
But,
you are.
But I was really wrestling through your because I wanted some affirmation that I wasn't, but we're not even going there. But here's the deal.
We'll move on.
Young people think that, hey, I'll wait till I'm older, till, hey, I really start to think about this idea of influence. When would you say that was the moment that you maybe realized, wow, I should take influence pretty seriously because I may have some?
Good question. Probably should have thought about that. That'd be a good question to think through coming on to this. But,
well, I like casual. This is all about casual conversation. So you have no idea where I'm headed. But when was the moment that you would say, hey, I may have this?
I feel like probably when I got into high school was whenever I started seeing that most. So I was a student at Fusion, like you had mentioned earlier. You met me when I was 15. So I remember being freshman, sophomore, really even most of, I think, junior, senior year. I think you actually had been one of the people who had really challenged me and called me up in that. I remember being ready to move into the next season of life, moving into young adult ministry and all that kind of stuff. And you would challenge me and you were like, P, you have influence with these kids who are coming up behind you, these students who are even just freshmen, sophomore, let alone middle schoolers. And what kind of legacy do you want to leave behind when you leave? And that conversation, just even asking that question of what kind of legacy do you want to leave behind? What kind of influence do you want to have on them? I think that conversation radically even shifted me into the next gear of acknowledging, okay, yeah, God's given me that. So what am I going to do with it?
Yeah, I remember too, just seeing you kind of contemplate and think through, okay, what am I going to do with this influence? What does it look like? Because I think that more often than not, especially as students get older, they're always thinking about, hey, what's next? Hey, what's the next thing that I can be a part of? What's the next phase? Instead of sitting where God has them at and saying, wow, God, how do you want to use me right now? So it's kind of switching from this consumer mindset of what can I get to now missional, how what can I give? And therein lies influence, right? Yeah. And so here's the question that I have for you. How did you grow And how would someone grow in their influence as a young leader?
I think just one is like stepping into opportunities to lead. So that looked like a ton of different things when I was in high school specifically. One of those was like I joined our student leadership team as a student here at Fusion. So like that set me up with people who are going to walk alongside me, who are going to challenge me in areas that I wasn't doing well in, like who are going to call me up and call me out, but who also were going to walk alongside me and kind of champion me in that. But also even like at school, I joined our student council, and I was like a part of our, I was our community service liaison. So I got to like help lead community service projects in the area. I was a part of like our cheer team, that kind of stuff. And I just said yes to opportunities to lead when they came about, and then listened to the people around me to take feedback in the areas where I wasn't good. And I'm aware, like, I'm a hot mess, got a lot of space to grow. But I think a part that was key, and that was one, saying yes when something had come up that I could lead. And then two, being able to listen to the feedback that had been given me as I was learning to lead, and I'm still learning to lead.
Right. And so, yeah, as you say, no one has arrived. So is there a verse? I know that there is a verse, because you've talked about this verse many times, that really stood out to you, that helped you really get a model or a frame of mind to think about when it comes to growing your influence.
Yeah. So 1 Timothy 4:12, it says, "Don't let anyone look down on you because of your age, but set an example to the others in speech, conduct, and purity, and in love." And that became like an anthem for my life. When I came on staff with Fusion, I was like 2 weeks into being 20 years old, just like barely out of my teenage years. And I remember feeling like so insecure stepping into leading. I was not that far removed from high school. I'm like coming onto a team. I'm leading adults. I'm leading our student leadership team, like just all this kind of stuff. And I remember feeling really insecure of like, just that imposter syndrome, like who let me lead? Like this like level of people, you know?
You saying that I created an imposter? Because
yes,
I do think
it's your fault. No,
right.
But just like that was my own insecurity when I stepped in. Like, I don't know if I can actually do this, you know? And I remember Les actually had challenged me. He brought that verse to me, and he was like, "Paytn, God's given you a gift to lead. He's opened up opportunities for you to do so. And like now you get to set an example as a leader in the way that you speak. That's your speech. So it talks about speech, conduct, the way that you live. Purity, like your heart, and then the way that you love people." And that verse like became an anthem for me as a young leader, but then also now even as I get to lead our student leadership team, like that's what it's about, is being able to set an example to people that follow you. So
that's so good. You know, one of the things I so appreciate about you is that what you said a moment ago, that you've said yes to really small things. You know, I think that influence is grown over time.
Yeah,
and your willingness to step in. I remember when you were a student and I came and asked you to join the student leadership team, and it's like, okay, yeah, sure, I'll do that. Hey, I remember asking you to maybe even consider not going and taking a next step and switching to our young adult ministry as a senior, and just leveraging your opportunity as a high schooler to minister to middle schoolers. And you said, yes, okay, cool, I got that. And then watching your influence grow and grow and grow to where now you're leading, and you're leading at a high level. And I'm really, really proud of you. Let me ask you this question. How have you continued to grow in your influence? I'm thinking about Ally, kind of that leadership institute that you're in, but like, how have you continued to try and like fan that flame of growth? Because you really never stop growing, myself included. But what are you doing right now to grow in your leadership?
Yeah, so shortly after I came on staff at the church, I applied for our Abundant Life Leadership Institute, which has been probably one of the greatest like sources of growing, even just my confidence as a leader. Walking into it, I knew like God had given me a gift to lead, and that was awesome. And I feel like I could do it decently well. But when it came to like practically, like how do I lead people? How do I develop them? How do I build a team? How do I learn how to like think strategically as I lead and carry influence well? That's where I feel like I've gotten like really practical handles through the Abundant Life Leadership Institute, which has been cool. I think a huge part of it is like just surrounding myself with people who are going to be honest with me. Even as I've been leading teams, leading people who are leading teams that I lead, I've just created perfectly really safe spaces in those relationships to receive feedback from them too. So say we do an event and I give away ministry to a select few of volunteers. Afterwards, I'm going to ask them like, hey, how do you feel like that went? Was there anything that I could have done to lead you better? Was there something that you didn't feel equipped for that like you wish I would have given you more direction or clarity to in the beginning? Could I have been a better resource on anything? I'll just ask them questions like that and create a safe space for them to be honest with me. I think even with people who are leading me, like with you, I ask you frequently, like, hey, what do you see in how I'm leading? Like, is there something that I'm doing that I need to stop doing? Like, where's the area of weakness in my leadership? And then I'll take time to really like chew that over for myself and be like, okay, was that true? Probably most of the time it is true. And so putting that into practice so that I can start to hopefully lead better as a result of that.
So good. That's so good. So we have to kind of wrap this episode up.
Yeah.
But I do want to give students a practical takeaway, because I think some of the principles that you've learned as you have grown in your influence, you've now kind of embedded into our student ministry as well. What is a practical next step that maybe you would say if a student's watching this that they should consider doing to grow their influence? What would you say to that?
I would say look for an area to lead like right around you right now. Practically for our students who come to Fusion, like joining our student leadership team would be a layup for that. Yeah. So on that team, like you're going to get equipped to like how to share your faith, how to share the gospel, your testimony, but also like how to just engage students in a way that's practical and compelling, how to build relationships with them. We're going to help to develop you as a leader in different capacities too. And so that's one of the things that I would say, on the most practical level. I think to that also a practical way to start to step into leadership, and especially just being able to use your influence well. You, I think, were one of the people who had talked to me about this, but the people who are influencing you are going to be is going to be how you influence other people. And so like your top 5 friends are the people that you're going to become. So if the people that you're surrounding yourself with are a negative influence on you, then naturally you're going to be a negative influence on the people around you. And so I think even it starts, say yes to opportunities to lead, but also evaluate who are the people who are influencing you, because that's going to be the way that you're flowing into influencing other people. And so if the people who you would say are your top 5 friends aren't going to be a positive influence on you, then like maybe we need to start to change that too. So figuring out who the people are that are going to influence you, deciding to say yes to opportunities to influence. And then I think just being able to acknowledge, how am I setting an example? So I think that helps, having people speak into your life too. I'll ask the girls who are in my circle frequently, like, hey, how has my speech been? Like, how has like my heart been? How have I been treating people? And I'll let them speak into that too, because what they see is also what the girls who I'm influencing are seeing too. And so I'll ask my girls that are in community with me. I'll ask the girls who I'm leading in my Fusion group, the girls that I'm discipling. And I think just continuing to have conversation has been helpful in that too. So
that's so good. P, I'm so proud of you. Thank you for coming on to Let's Talk About It. So there you have it. This is how to grow in your influence. Get around people who can help you grow. Say yes to opportunities. Paytn Godshall, thank you so much for coming on to this show.
Thanks, Steve.
And singing in the intro. See you.